Hello and welcome to our Saturdays with Tara Hangout on Air. I'm Mary Beth at the Law of Attraction Club, and we're on the web at theloaclub.com. On these hangouts, we collaborate with our friends Tara. This hangout is the summary of our theme for the week and continues on our member conference line. Today's topic is of storms and safety, of wars and peace on earth, and can you really change everything? You can get invites to our open calls, which we offer periodically, and our powerful free letting go process by going to theloaclub.com. So now we're going to welcome Robin and Tara.
Welcome to this discussion in which we find you in a world of storms and climate changes that mean more and bigger storms, and threats of war that are compounded by the thought of nuclear weapons being unleashed. Some time back there was a quote from Abraham through Esther Hicks that caused a bit of a stir for some of those in this community. It was, "There will always be war and storms. You're never going to come into agreement as a mass consciousness that this is the way. There will always be disagreements. Therefore, there will always be turmoil. There will always be war." Then some of you ask us to make sense of this from a law of attraction perspective. So today we're going to do that as best we can. And yesterday, this one had a conversation with one of you in this community who expressed the belief that although some things can reasonably be changed by making better thought choices, there are many things that are simply unchangeable. And so every time we say there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, it sounds ridiculous. So today we're also going to think about what sorts of things you can or cannot reasonably expect to change. And guess what? Both of these questions about storms and about what cannot be changed are actually the same question. What it comes down to is this: what, where, and who do you consider yourself to be? And what do you think the law of attraction is? Is it the ultimate powerful force, or is it just some sort of generally good philosophy to live by? And do you see yourself as living in a one-version shared physical reality? Let's look at all of this firstly from a worldly perspective, and then from a sort of in-between place that you will find yourself in from time to time. And then we're going to have you look at the world from our perspective. Because when you view things from our vantage point, the picture looks a whole lot different. Let's say you're a dyed-in-the-wool materialist. You believe there's this planet Earth, and everything about it can be described in physical terms. Although there are many things for science yet to discover, everything will eventually be explained without the need to resort to non-physical phenomena, even consciousness. Even though there are some who are spiritually inclined, the prevailing social conversation in this one's world, and probably yours also, is centered around this rational and secular philosophy. Natural disasters are unavoidable because that's the nature of variable weather on a planet comprised of tectonic plates that collide and occasionally produce earthquakes and tsunamis. In this secular world, governments form and they govern. Laws are made and enforced. Politicians compete heatedly over whose guiding principles serve the country best. Most of you, for most of the time, learn to coexist in ways that support the general good of the population. When disasters occur, they are ranked by the number of deaths. Death, of course, is a very big deal, because when you die, that's it. If there's a disaster, everyone feels bad, because they should. They send their thoughts and prayers to the victims, and although nobody ever explains what that achieves, it sounds good, and it's an expression of sympathy and support. In this world, you strive to find ways of surviving and even hopefully thriving. Now let's move to that in-between place where you overlay on that one version, ongoing physical world, the idea that non-physical forces exist. Whether you adhere to a spiritual philosophy and believe those forces come from God, or you believe in something like the law of attraction, now you're in the arena of complexity and half answers and dogma. There's the interminable question, if there's an all-powerful God, then how come the world is this way or that way? And the answers lead to more questions that have no logical answer. Or there's a similar law of attraction question. How can it be true that you can be, do, or have anything if you're sharing a world with others who may want very different things? Once again, there's no logical answer. If you're in this in-between place, then perhaps you've settled on the idea that your source of non-physical power is having some effect, but you're not quite sure how far that goes and what things you can change. So maybe sending thoughts and prayers has some effect. Maybe you're wondering how you can get to a place of feeling good when all these bad things are happening, and you have friends who are now forced to live through some particular disaster in their part of the world. Are there some things you can change in your immediate experience, but not global issues? Now let's see if we can get to that third place by exploring what actually happens when you change what you choose to expect and thereby change your outcomes by employing the power of your thoughts. We'll look at two versions of a story. It's about an intended trip you might be taking by plane from, say, San Francisco to New York. If you believe at all in the law of attraction, then this simple explanation should be well within your bucket of what is possible. In version 1, you go to bed the night before worrying about the trip. You wake up feeling anxious. You stub your toe. Your suitcase breaks. The taxi is late and traffic is bad. You get to the airport late and miss the flight. No alternatives available that day, and you have to return to your San Francisco home. In the other version, you catch yourself worrying the night before and choose to get calm and anticipate good things. You wake up feeling good. Your taxi is on time. You have a wonderful flight. And that evening, you're 3,000 miles away in your hotel in New York enjoying a good meal. Can you see that this is a different version of physical reality? Imagine yourself sitting with us and looking down on this journey as it unfolds and watching as the ripples of these changes you have caused spread across the world. Think about this. At the end of the day, not only you on the opposite side of the USA, but everybody you left behind in San Francisco and everyone you encounter along the way, from the taxi driver to the hotel staff who check you in, to the waiter who serves your meal. Everybody's world is different, perhaps in a small way, or as you watch from above, perhaps even in a profound way. Do you see that you cannot make a change in your world without seeming to change the worlds of others? Does this mean that you are asserting things into other people's experience? Not at all. If you have the ability to step into a different version of reality, then so does everyone else. What you are doing is attracting into your story different versions of everything. And those versions are always a match to your now vibration. Think about this. When you go to the movies and you sit in the theater and you watch the screen, to the extent that it's a good movie, you engage with it and you enjoy the experience. You don't sit there thinking about the fact that it's all contained within and emanating from that box in the projection room behind you. So it is with you and your movie. In a physical sense, there's a physical you in a physical external world, but it's all contained within and emanating from that box in your projection room, your mind. The screenplay of that movie in the theater is the brainchild of the author. The screenplay of your internal movie is what you've created from the belief choices you've made and the resulting expectations you have about the way the world works. It's contained somewhat in your conscious expectations, but mostly it's your prior choices that you've stored away in your superconsciousness. But there's none of it anywhere that you can't access and change. The version of the movie you see in the theater is the final compilation of the editor and director, picking which scenes to leave in or take out, and from many takes of each scene, picking which version to use and which to leave on the cutting room floor. The version of your movie you get to experience is the one you now choose to step into, and now, and now, and now. Each frame is a choice, and it's your choice. The idea that it's not one world, but your world unique to you, was a real breakthrough for this one. And although at first it was mind-boggling, once he got it, all the puzzle pieces fell into place. To the extent you don't get it, if you're trying to explain how the law of attraction works, your story gets mired in complexity. The fundamental truth that sits beneath every story is elegantly simple. And here's the best part of it. If you come from that storyless place, you can most easily step in any direction you want to go. Your story is your stage, not your cage. Within this community, as our mutual understanding has evolved, so has the way we collaboratively express things. Part of that evolved understanding is that even though it seems you're in a physical, ongoing, continuous reality, you're not. If you were in a one world shared with everybody else, then the promise of the law of attraction, that there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, would make no sense at all, because your desires would always, to some extent, conflict with the desires of those around you. So we suggest you notice what you have in the possible bucket and what you have in the impossible bucket. And then ask yourself why you chose those distinctions. What is it that determines that this particular thing is changeable and those particular things are not? Why is it that you can change your trip to New York, but you can't levitate and fly yourself? Or if you think you can fly, why is it that you can't inhabit a world with no wars and no natural disasters? in truth, your reality is virtual. It's in your mind. It's your world. It exists in many versions, and you step between those by the belief choices you make. You don't have to deal with things and people as they are. You're creating them as they are. It's all an inside job. So will there always be war? Well, it's your movie, so you will have to tell us. Will your friends in Florida have a horrendous time because of Hurricane Irma? You have to tell us. What we can say with confidence is that if you are really worried about them and spending your creative energy imagining worst-case scenarios, then that will be the reality you create. And if that makes you feel responsible for the bad experiences of others, you need to also remember this. You cannot assert things into their experience. The only thing you can ever do is attract into your movie the version of everything and everyone that's a match to you, even as you are showing up in their movies in different matching versions of you. Here's a more favourite quote of ours from Abraham, made around the same time as that one we began with. Well-being will always abound. So, you can decide at any point in time in what part of this you want to play. You can use anything as your excuse to align with well-being, or you can use anything as your excuse to not align. We think the thing that's at the heart of this discussion is your own personal power. We think that's what you are sort of struggling for and reaching for. More recently, they've said, no matter how close up you are to or far from the details of that war or storm, you are sifting through the contrast of it, and you are launching your personal rockets of desire. There are big thought forms about things not wanted, but they are minuscule in comparison with this stream of well-being. You don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. You can live heaven on earth right now. You can live peace on earth right now. You can live prosperity on earth right now. Of course, we would say there is not one world, and so there will not always be war. There will not always be any specific thing. If there's war in your world, it's because you have chosen to believe that's the way things are. But you can truly, and we would say literally, live in peace on earth right now by choosing that version of your world to inhabit. But perhaps this raises for you the question, are some things more difficult to create than others? Does it feel as if it's harder to change global facts about the world than change some of the smaller circumstances of your personal life? Do some things have bigger momentum to overcome than others? From that same Abraham session, your guidance system is so powerful, it is a wonder to us how it's so easy for many of you to miss it. And we know the answer. It is that you've trained yourself to observe. You've trained yourself to be objective. You've trained yourself to weigh the pros and the cons, the pluses and the minuses. You want to be objective. That objectivity, of course, can get in the way of getting your mind around concepts like multiple versions of reality. But if you sit with it for a while, you'll get it. There's nothing about this game that's beyond your ability to understand, at least conceptually. And understanding breeds confidence. We will hand it to you humans that your physical reality is quite mesmerizing. When you are in the moment, it feels like that's the way it is. We get it. We really get it. So that's why we so love any tools or practices you do in which you're able to lighten up on it. To just go, oh, okay, I see. This isn't a judgment on me. I'm not a bad person. This isn't the way it is because I'm paying for something terrible that I did. It is simply the way I've chosen to look at life. It's the lens through which I have looked at life. But I can change the lens. We see that it's easy to get caught up in this game of life you've created. It's a magnificent game and it is mesmerizing. But here's the simple and absolute truth. Things are as they are because, and only because, that's what you've chosen to believe and expect. There is no real co-creation. There is only your creation, into which you have invited us and everyone else to come and play. But it's your movie, and in that movie we are all faithfully following your screenplay, even as in our movie you are faithfully following ours. We intersect occasionally when we match up. We have some shared scenes, but they are not the same movie. So if some things seem more inherently persistent than others, it's only because of the way you've been practicing that thought. Just remember this. If your mind has the ability to conceive a new idea and a new way of being, then you have the power to choose to believe in that new idea, and you can be that new version of you, which steps you into a new matching version of your virtual reality. From Neil Donald Walsh. A statement of what you choose to be real can become real through the simple act of your choosing it and continuing to choose it. This is where the tools and practices we have offered and others in this community have offered come in handy. It's the choosing and consciously continuing to choose that is key, particularly with those more well-practiced habits of thought. And also remember this, anytime you are feeling bad in any way, what you are sensing within you is that you are heading away from what you want, and you have the inherent power to choose a new direction. So we say, stop, turn in a new direction, head towards what you want. Having said all of this, clearly there is nobody, including us, who can tell you what to believe. Take what makes sense to you. Take what feels good to you. Leave the rest. Your emotions are key. They are your guidance system. When you're feeling good, you're heading in the direction of your desires. Nothing is more important. If you believe you can, or you believe you cannot, by definition, you're right, because your beliefs determine everything. And there are no right or wrong choices. They are simply your choices, leading to your experiences and stirring new desires, and hopefully leading to new delicious choices and a new now version of your movie. When we say there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, we're not telling you should go out and move mountains. We're simply expressing the essence of who you are at your core and telling you the facts of life. The simple truth is, if you want to move a mountain, you can. As always with these short introductions, we are conscious that there may be some very big questions and perhaps new ideas in all of this. And we welcome this opportunity to mix it up with you and answer any questions you might have.
This Hangout on Air was the summary of our theme for the week. We do 3 live calls a week with Q&A for our members on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You can become a member by going to the loaclub.com/join. Our longer discussion